Let's start off, guys. Rutgers 5-7. All of a sudden, has a chance at a bowl game going down to Birmingham, Alabama to play Georgia Southern. They decline it. What are your thoughts, Gabe?
Well, I I know you guys are very passionately against the decision. I don't mind it, and I honestly don't think there was much of a debate in the locker room or within the staff or the athletic program. I think it was a pretty clear cut case. They moved on from this season, and I actually have my points right here. So there's no defensive staff, so that would be all on Shiano. And I know that he was responsible for defensive play calling the second half of the season or the majority of it, but you still need your guys, even if they're not play calling. You need a defensive staff. You can't do it all on your own. The seniors have moved on. DT already declared for the draft. A few seniors that still have a COVID year or redshirt year of eligibility, they've declared entry to the portal. And to me, you just can't sell pride on a lost season. So I know that there's some positives to playing a bowl. That's without a doubt. But to me, the negatives and the sort of emphasis and tone of the season, it just bared too much. And the fact that we don't have a crew to call plays defensively outside of Shiano or monitor positives and negatives, to me, it just doesn't seem like we're bowl ready, even if we get an offer.
I was surprised by it originally until I had to do a little bit of research and seeing that a lot of the coaching staff wasn't really going to be a part of this bowl experience. But just shocked that Rutgers was blowing it up the minute after the game ended 2 weeks ago. I would have thought that they was going to keep some of their staff still to just be aware just in case they do get an invite to bowl season, because whether you liked it or not, everybody knew that the bowl projections this year was going to be very controversial just based off of the FBS standpoint of things. Is also for Georgia Southern, I feel really bad for them because imagine 7 teams not wanting to play against you.
Yep.
It just feels disrespectful because Rutgers wasn't the only team that declined it. One of the other notable teams that declined it was Florida State, Iowa State. So 2 teams that came into the year with heavy aspirations as well. So I truly got to see if the NCAA is going to be able to reprimand these types of things happening, or they're going to just lower the amount of bowl games, because this is starting to become a trend.
But do you know what the theme is between all the schools that you mentioned, Florida State, Iowa State, and Rutgers? It's that
they blew it up.
The coaching staffs are all in shambles. Even if Iowa State, I believe they found a replacement from Matt Campbell, it's still so fresh. You can't just send a head coach out there to debut in a bowl game with a bunch of players from your previous head coach's spot. And for us, we're still vacant in half of our coordinators. And Florida State, even if they're keeping Mike Norvell, it's the fact that they had to make a statement saying they're keeping a guy means they probably shouldn't keep him. That's just my opinion. But basically, all 3 schools kind of in the process of, and I believe Auburn, they declined the bowl too, and Baylor did too. And Baylor said in their statement, we're already well into the offseason in preparation for the 2026 year, and I'm sure that we feel the same way.
Do you think they should limit the amount of bowl games, or do you think they should set up a period of time where the coaches are eligible to move on? Kind of how similar the NFL is, where there's a certain deadline of time where coaches are able to take interviews from other teams during the playoffs or during the postseason?
I think that's what it is. I don't think that, look, Lane Kiffin didn't handle it well leaving Ole Miss. That's no secret. He's not the only one to do so, though. We saw Auburn poach a guy. We saw who else? Memphis, I believe, lost their coach. Iowa State lost their coach to Penn State. So it's not a Lane Kiffin issue. What it is to me is a timing issue. And just like how there would be a fine in any professional sports league for interviewing guys or recruiting guys in the middle of the season, it should not be allowed for you to interview coaches in the middle of a season from another program. It should be after the season's over and after any bowl games have been played. That's the solution.
I may have a different opinion here. I do think I do think that Rutgers should have participated in the Birmingham Bowl. It was a very, very bad year for Rutgers, and they finished on the worst of possible notes, being ahead in the fourth quarter against Penn State. And then you see Athan fumbling the ball, and we miss it on 4th and 1. Then on 3rd and 26, we get a penalty, lose the game, leaving a bad taste in every Rutgers fan's mouth. Now, we're losing a good number of seniors and impact players. This was an opportunity for the younger players to get an opportunity to play and to go out on a more encouraging note, to get game experience. And I know it wouldn't have been under the most ideal circumstances. I mean, you hardly have any defensive staff, but what you do have is you do have players, and I'm sure there's players who want to play and players who need the experience. I think this would have been the right kind of point for Rutgers to, put the memory of Penn State in the background and say, let's go get a win against Georgia Southern with our younger players, give them some in-game experience, and really, really start this on a positive note. I don't think that they're that deep right now into the offseason that they couldn't do it. And my worry going forward is that next year we're going to have a lot of players that don't have any experience. We're going to be missing a lot of the impact players, and it could be worse than this year. So I think it was a mistake.
Well, I agree with you on that end, just on how they should have started to give these young guys a chance to play in that Birmingham Bowl, because there's a huge question mark at center. There's a huge question mark at quarterback. We haven't seen as much of AJ Cerise that a lot of Rutgers faithful would like to see, especially the coaching staff. And now we got to wait for all of if he's able to do this in game-like situations until next year's week 1, instead of trying to see it in a bowl game where the worst that happens is you're losing the bowl game.
But to be fair, think about how much we've referenced the Rate Bowl, how much weight it has, and that was a bowl game where everyone was still sold on the season. Now imagine this would be on our record, and we wouldn't even have our best players out there. So to me, that's the other case of if you play these backups or play players that want to play and players that don't want to play simply don't play, it'll historically not look great if we don't perform like an A+ squad with 100% team chemistry, which we clearly don't have at this point because we're already, I would say, like 5% into the offseason, which it doesn't sound like a lot, but that's a lot of decisions already being made. I mean, we already cut most of Shiano's staff on the defensive side of the football, and there's no true leader on the defense yet that has emerged. Jabome had a solid year, but to me, the dynamic doesn't seem great when we lose our defensive captain. We lose the staff. I mean, to be fair, the staff needed to leave anyways. But I just think the negatives outweigh the positives here. It's one extra game where players can play, but ultimately it would just be like an early spring game to me.
Yeah, and I think you make fair points. I just kind of feel like, well, they're eventually going to have to play, and it's going to be 9 months from now. And I'd rather have them get their feet wet a bit because they're going to be the ones on the field. And I think it could have given at least some more positive things to take away from this season rather than having that Penn State loss linger. But I certainly respect that opinion. Any final thoughts on that before we head to the juniors and seniors who might see their name called on Sundays?
I truly believe that a lot of those players, especially some of those seniors, would take up the opportunity to play one more game just from just a film aspect. I truly believe most of the D-line, if you told them, if we have the chance to play one more game, would you be interested in playing this game? Most of them wouldn't sit out. The only players that I could truly believe that would, quote-unquote, sit out is players such as Ian Strong or KJ Duff.
Well, DT and Nathan already said goodbye to Rutgers, though.
That's true. Well, Rutgers has made its decision, and we can put this season to bed. Hopefully, next year and the forthcoming years will be more positive.